Hey team, welcome back to the pod. Here I am with yet another cute outfit. Not really, but this is a vest that I've had for ages. Do you remember when, I feel like vests are still in, but yeah, this is the one vest that I bought because I couldn't justify buying multiple vests when I live in the heat. But honestly, guys, sometimes I was getting ready for this pod and I was like, you know what? I want to wear something cute. I don't even want to wear something cute. I just want to wear like a hoodie, You see people like wearing hoodies, looking so cozy on the couch. I was like, I would love to do that, but it would require me to turn on my AC like super cold. We waste the electricity just so I can be in my little igloo, wearing my cute hoodie. But anyway, here I am in a sweater vest, although it's hot, but surviving. Today I wanted to chat with you guys about my journey with social media so far and like some recent changes that I've made that I feel like have really bettered my life. And I was kind of surprised by it. And I think hindsight's an amazing thing. And I think like in hindsight, I've really realized how positive it has been for me to make these certain changes and change my perspective and really like my relationship with social media. So the reason I want to talk about this is because I feel like a lot of people don't realize the relationship that they have with social media, probably because it's just their norm, their routine. They think that it doesn't really, take up so much space in their lives, even if they just do it casually. But I think there is definitely a self-check-in and realization that one needs to have around social media and how much you are letting it impact your life, or like how involved you are in it, and like all these small like indirect ways that it affects your well-being and just general life. So let's get into it. For me, if you guys haven't been following me for too long, I actually have not always had this many followers on Instagram and across YouTube. I honestly previously with social media was really active on YouTube. I started making content on YouTube because I was living overseas as an expat and I found it like a really unique experience, and I really wanted to document my life at the time. I think I had like more free time and I was just like, you know what, this could be kind of fun. I'm going to do it. And I kind of saw it as like a self diary of my life. And so that would be something cool to kind of look back at. I don't think when I started like vlogging on YouTube, I was very intentional. It was kind of just something, I'm curious about this, I'm going to just try it out and do it. So I started YouTube in 2018 when I moved to Hong Kong, and I originally started on my iPhone. I was just being like super like casual about it. But I think I was also to a degree kind of taking it seriously, where I was like, I want to try and make this something by being consistent. And so I just decided to try doing it. Making my videos was pretty consistent. But when I moved to Myanmar, that's when things really changed for me, and I kind of took off, in quotation marks, I would say. And I think that's because the content that I was making at that time when I was in Myanmar became very niche and focused on Myanmar specifically. I had unintentionally found a niche on YouTube and with content, and I was very lucky to fall into that space and really reap the benefits of it. I got to meet some really awesome people. I gained awesome traction. And so my YouTube really grew a lot. And I was putting a lot more effort into it in Myanmar. And I was posting like every week. It was super diligent. I definitely had a lot more time back then. But when I moved to Hong Kong, I kind of just like lost my creative juice. I didn't really feel very inspired for some reason by Hong Kong. I think it's because I had lived there previously and I can't speak Cantonese fluently or Mandarin. So I kind of felt like I was limiting my content capabilities. But I also think I was just making excuses. I think I kind of, unfortunately, like outgrew vlogging. And I started to not enjoy it as much because I think when I was in Hong Kong, because I was lacking intention, I didn't know what to film. And so sometimes I would just film when I felt like it, but I wasn't doing it consistently enough. on like one topic. It would just be like, oh, I'm going to this cool restaurant today, I'll film that. I'm going to this island today, I will film that. And so because it was lacking intention, I think I kind of fell out of love with it because it became too hard to film, because I think it became more of a chore, and it felt like I didn't have direction. And then, so I kind of just dropped off YouTube for a while, and then I went on to, I always had my Instagram, and I wasn't like actually posting on Instagram ever to like grow that audience. I never really made an active effort to do that for Instagram. I think at the time when YouTube took off, I naturally got followers onto Instagram, but not as many as I did on YouTube. And so I think I kind of played with the thought in my mind of like, oh, should I put more effort into YouTube? I'm not really sure. But then obviously COVID happened, and there was a real significant shift in like the type of content that people were consuming, which is short form media. And then there was TikTok, and then there was Reels. And I think for me, I enjoyed being on Instagram as a user for like photos and use it as personal use. I would definitely put effort into like taking cute like outfit pictures and stuff, but there was, once again, no intention. There was no plan as to like, why am I creating this content? Who do I want to be on this space? I didn't really have like any personal branding or like identity. I just kind of posted as I pleased. And I think I kind of took that perspective because I never had thought that I would become like a profile on Instagram and could grow that space. So in a way, I didn't really feel like, I don't know, is this weird? I think it's a weird dilemma of like, oh, should I try and be somebody on this space, or should I just like let it be? And because I was kind of in that nomad space, I didn't really feel very committed either way. And then, so at the end of COVID, it came out of COVID, I think it was 2022. 2022. Yes. Or no, 2022, early 2023. No, late 2022, early 2023, that I started posting like dance reels for fun. And I was, at the time, I always loved like watching all these reels and video content. I thought it was really interesting. And I just think it's such fun content to make. So I started making video like reels of me dancing. And I'm not a good dancer. I'm not a trained dancer. Like, let's just start there. But it was just fun. And I had posted a few, and then I posted this one when I was in Bangkok, and it just blew up. Actually, sorry, no, before that, there was one in Bali that I posted. And that's like, I remember it increasing in views, and I was just like, huh? And it was absolutely insane. Like the correlation between like viewership and follows was unreal. And so pretty much in about 4 months, or 4 to 5 months, I went from like 16,000 followers on Instagram to 100,000. And like, let's just keep in mind what I had just said before. That was my mindset. I was not taking Instagram seriously. I was just posting for fun. And so all of a sudden I had went viral. My type of viral in very small quotation marks. But I was like, whoa. And I got millions of views on these videos, and I was perplexed, but also very unprepared, I would say. And so from once I had gotten all these followers, I was thinking, oh, okay, like maybe I should actually really be more intentional and think about like what I want to do off of this platform. And so I decided my like knee-jerk reaction was to just post more content. But I was still lacking direction. I was just posting content about anything and everything, because that's what I used to do. Like I would post an outfit, a workout, like makeup, traveling. It was just so much content. It was just like me trying to document all of my life. And with the growth, and it was fine before because it was like I was just doing it maybe once or twice a week at my own leisure. It's not like I was trying to upkeep every day or like multiple times a week posting and creating content. And so, yeah, I carried on like that for a while, and then I hit this point where I was kind of feeling a bit deflated because I was like, well, I'm not really feel like I'm not growing anymore, but I also feel like, you have this sense of impatience of like, why is nothing really happening for me on this platform? And Alex sat me down one day and was just like, I feel like it's so great you have all these followers. And he's like, I want you to like capitalize on this and grow from this and, make something of your own. But he was like, if I go into your profile, I don't really know who you are. Like, what is your identity? What do you stand for? What content am I going to expect from you when I come into this platform? And I think for a really long time, I like kind of fought that idea, and I felt like, but you can be everything. Like, I can just be a generalist. And, I think that's like a consistent thing throughout my life is like, I can be a generalist. I can be good at many things. Like, I have many interests. And I think, yes, you can, but I do think that at some point in your life, you have to start to like become a little bit more specialized in certain areas within the spaces that you enjoy. And I think this is what like my shift in social media and my approach to it has shown me. And so let's get into that. So we had this discussion, and then I was like, okay, I felt very anxious about it because I was like, oh, I'm just going to stop doing all of this content. Like, but I feel like people love this content. People like the dancing. They like, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, I didn't want to be known for dancing because I'm not a dancer. It's not like it's going to really get me anywhere, right? And so I had always wanted to do fitness content. I love working out. I work out like most days of the week. It's what I do for fun. It's it just comes naturally to me. So it would make sense for me naturally to choose that as my niche. And for some, I actually don't really know why I didn't do that earlier, and why I lent into things like fashion and, making makeup transition reels when I'm not like, it's not my strength. I think I have fine style, but I'm not out here trying to be a fashionista, nor do I want to spend that money. So I think it was like interesting because now I look back, I feel like, why were you floating and fighting, like floating in such like a nomadic space, but also fighting so much, just becoming more specialized and niche. And so it's just a shout out to everybody who's out there who, you are making content and you're feeling like you're being a little aimless about it, or generally just like not even content, but like you are a generalist and you are afraid, like if you change the approach that you have now, where you are, you kind of have a jack of all trades, or your finger in a lot of pies, that you'll limit yourself. I totally disagree. Like from what I've experienced, I do think that focusing in, zoning in on something, it does really help you. So that brings me to the present day, where I shifted to tennis and running, as well as doing like gym workouts. But tennis was what I felt like could be my point of difference. Not because I'm super good at tennis, but just because I feel like I had experiences to offer. Like I could do outfitting within it. I can do, equipment. I can do skills-based cardio stuff. Like, there's a lot of conversation and engagement that I was still able to have with my audience through a topic like tennis and running. So I shifted to tennis and running about at the start of this year, actually, about 6 months ago, and really started to like curate my content to be specifically around these two areas and not, actually towards the end of last year, I kind of shifted and not be so like broad, and it actually really paid off. Like very early on, I was a bit more out there, but I got some cool not partnerships, but like sponsorships in some way with brands that I never thought I could. And I was getting and I'm still starting to get like more traction and recognition. And it's more than I ever had previously, because I really think it's because now I am like in a specific topic area. I'm a specific niche. I have a space that I'm in, and then I'm like identifiable. There's a sense of identity there of like who I am and what I'm trying to represent, which is really fulfilling, because I feel like, if you relate this to life, it's like being able to belong in somewhere. I think everybody has a sense of belonging generally as humans. And so my ability to know that I belong in, that fitness space makes me feel a little bit more validated and like I am seen and doing like what's true to me. So yeah, that's the shift that I've made. So my shift is overall, I would summarize it as taking a step back and actually focusing in on a niche, on a specific specialty area, allowing myself to take back my time that I would have spent on, trying to force myself to create all this other content on my life, so that I can be better at one thing. And I think if you look at that and, you translate that into life, it's like sometimes there is a need for you to kind of slow down, step back, really assess like what are you good at, why are you doing something, what is your intention, and let go of the things that are pulling you back. And I don't know, I read this book called 4,000 Weeks, which is a book about essentially you only have like the average person only has 4,000 weeks in their life. And it's a book about talking about like prioritization and how to, when you feel like really overwhelmed and you have this like productivity kind of anxiety, which sometimes I do, how to kind of reassess like what you should be focusing on in life. And in this book, they talked about like, if you have more than 5 things on your list of things that you want to do and you're focusing on, then really like you're wasting your time and you're just creating more distractions for yourself, which I actually really resonated with me because I've always been someone who has so much on her plate, and tries to be so broad in my interests that I do think it holds me back from being able to really hone in and be better at certain areas of my life. So just a tip, I feel like just simplify and like less is definitely more. I think that's what I'm learning as I'm growing up. But the benefits that I've really felt from taking this approach, especially with my social media, has been I've actually felt genuine moments like where I've just felt way more present. Now when I go traveling, I feel a lot more at peace and like I can enjoy my holiday. I used to love making content traveling, and I still do. And like, even when I'm traveling, sometimes I'm like, oh, should I be vlogging this? Because it's so like fun, and I'd love to make content on it. But I know that it's not where like I should be spending my time or what's really going to bring me value, and it's not in my like strategy, and it's not intentional. So I shouldn't just do it for the sake of it. And I do think that like being able to just enjoy that moment, walk down that street, look at that cafe with my own eyes and not behind a camera is really enjoyable. And I think it's very like refreshing. So I've really enjoyed that. I've also enjoyed not having anxiety about having to film things. Previously, like when I would get, a partnership to film a hotel room or an experience, like all I would think about when I go on that holiday is like, how am I going to film this, X, Y, Z? Like it was a lot of, I feel like pressure on myself to make sure that I got the right shots and everything, which is great, but then not great because all I thought about was like shooting the content. So I kind of had to do that first before I could really enjoy like what I was doing. And that's not just on holiday. I think that's just like generally. I also think it's created like a better relationship between me and Alex, because when, he's not a content person and he doesn't create content, and when he goes on holidays or when we go to eat or when we go to do things, he's not there to make content. And so I think I used to feel this like friction and unfair pressure on him to kind of like be patient and either help me shoot content or like wait until I finish shooting content before we could do something. And that's no fun for anyone. And I used to try and really manage it so I didn't, it wasn't really impacting us too much. But unfortunately, it just creates this elephant in the room energy that just kind of becomes a downer, because it's not fair, I think, on the other person. And so, yeah, I think that's been really good. I also think, I think it's been really good. And then I think another thing is that I feel like I have a better definition of who I am. And that's what I was saying before at the belonging thing. It's like now I think that I've carved out like who I want to be in this social media space, how I want to represent myself, and feeling comfortable that and confident that it is very true to me. I feel really happy about being on social media, and I'm very happy about who I am, because I know that I'm not trying to be somebody else, and I am showing up authentically as myself. I don't think I ever wasn't authentic, but I do think that like sometimes I was making content because I was being aimless about it, and I saw somebody else make content. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, why don't I try it? But whereas now I feel like I'm like, see somebody else's content, I'm like, that's so cool. Love it. But I don't need to like spend an hour trying to make the content because it's not who I am or who I want to be. And so I feel like it's given me a lot more direction, which I love. Yeah, I also just wanted to share, my sister gave me a piece of advice, or like she gave me advice, but she also like sent me this article, and I thought it resonated really well with this podcast, but also when I was feeling a little bit like impatient and unsure of like, you know, is this the right pathway for me? Should I be going down this niche? Because I think it's still, I do sometimes think like, oh, like, should I go and make more content about XYZ? Like, should I be more like this creator? It's very natural to feel that way. And so my sister sent me an article about Stanley Cup, / Stanleys generally. And essentially, you know, Stanley is like 100-year-old company, been around since like the war, really long time. And they've always stuck very true to like who they are as a brand and what their product is. And it's so funny because it used to be super uncool. No one really found it trendy. It was just more for like utility, and people who, you know, like camping or like adventure or very practical things would use a Stanley. But no one was like seeing Stanley as a trendy, like Yeti kind of vibe. But fast forward to now, like Stanley's become like this very popular Tumblr product. It's like a trendy thing now to have. It's a statement of who you are. It now has an identity attached to it. And my sister was really communicating to me, you know, like, just be patient, be good at what you do, stay in your lane, and hone into that skill, and everything will fall into place as it needs to. But what people really value is like you having a strong identity and sense of who you are and what you bring to somebody, even if it's super, super niche, which I totally agree with. And I think I really can relate to it now, and it really resonates with me now after my journey with social media. I think it's true. I do think that you don't need to be everything for everyone. And if you are feeling that, I think it's a good opportunity to step back and kind of think about your intention and why you're doing what you're doing. Because I think the biggest thing that this whole journey has taught me is that you shouldn't do things without intention in life, because I think you just waste your time personally. Being aimless is fine to a degree, but in the long term, if you have no set intention of why you're doing something, even if it's big or small, then you're kind of setting yourself up, I think, for, don't want to say the word failure, but like you're setting yourself up to be disappointed, I think, by what the result may be if you don't have an intention as to why you're doing something. So yes, that is my pod for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I really have enjoyed like being introspective and thinking about the journey that I've been through. And it's been so lovely to look in hindsight and have the realizations about how I was interacting with social media, and how I was letting myself down by not, you know, really just biting the bullet and having greater direction and intention with who I am. But yeah, I think you guys liked it. Bye.